Hi, I am Allie Camaletti, and you are listening to Snack Leadership. I will be talking about everything leadership, broken down into bite-sized pieces. You will hear what different leadership skills look like in organizations and how they can rise teams up or take them down. I help leaders build resilience and improve performance by bringing awareness to opportunity behaviors in my business. Spark your mindset. I provide leadership and sales coaching, as well as team building and guest speaking. My hope is for you to feel inspiration and to create a spark in your mindset. Hi, everyone. Today we are talking about metacognition. Metacognition is the awareness and understanding of one's own thought process. It involves thinking about thinking, which includes self-regulation, reflection, and how one has agency over how one learns, remembers, and solves problems. Steve Scanlon is the founder and CEO of Rewire, a coaching and development company that helps companies, teams, and individuals better understand how to make effective changes for radical improvement in their businesses and in their personal lives. He owned and operated 3 companies by the time he was 30 and had since dedicated over 30,000 hours to one-on-one coaching with business executives and top performers. He is certified by the ICF, has a certification in Interpersonal Neurobiology from the Mindsight Institute, and is a senior fellow at the Institute of Coaching. Steve, I'm so excited to have this conversation today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Really grateful to be here.
All right, let's start off. What's something you've learned about yourself recently?
What is something I've learned about recently, about myself? I think I've learned that notwithstanding what I do for work, I'm still learning how judgmental I am in my own thinking about myself and others. And so I'm becoming more aware of some of the subtleties of those judgments, and I'm really attending to them and paying attention to them. So it's still something I continue to learn about myself.
Oh, you make me curious. Do you have an example?
Oh, it's sometimes little things. I have a one of our coaches is a gentleman by the name of Vikas, and Vikas a couple of years back had taught me this concept. He is from India, really brilliant human being, and he taught me this concept that he called othering. And any time in my own life, if I see someone walking down the street, um, or if I'm even talking to one of my own family members, my thought that is a separating thought of, oh, I like their hair, or I don't like their hair, or I like what they said and I don't like what they said. It could be very, very subtle, but I'm going through the process of othering. I'm making them not like me. And so I'm paying attention to all the places that I still other. And so once you become aware of that, I think most people go like, wow, I do that a lot. And so that is part of what we'll probably talk about today is just how I'm paying attention to that as I do it. And as I do that, it helps me um, because then I can probably act more in accordance of what my values are because it's not pleasing to me to have, when I'm othering. And sometimes I do it internally to myself as well. So there you go. Hope that's an example.
Oh, it's a total example. I do that too. And I think about that. And I think about that it's not in line with who I strive to be in my values as just a real person that focuses on love instead of that like fear and shame place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you make me curious. What number are you on Enneagram? Do you know?
Yeah, I'm a 7.
Okay.
I'm an Enneagram 7. So I find the Enneagram to be very, very useful in many places. But it's funny when you look at those profiles and you get to an unhealthy any number, we're all murderers and racists and whatever. Like at some level, because whether you're a 1 or a 3 or whatever it is, people go right to the bottom and read like, when they're unhealthy, what they look like or smell like or feel like. And, we're all awful human beings at that level, which I think is just super funny. But yes, I'm an Enneagram 7. How about you?
5.
Oh,
Did you judge?
no.
Was that?
Oh, interesting.
Oh, that's funny. So
Yes, I
I
othered
was,
you. We are other in that regard. You're a 5, I'm a 7. I think there's wings to 5 in my healthy thing. So there you go.
yeah. I had a gal who assessed my Enneagram, and she's like, I've never seen anything like it because you have so much feelings in your 5, which isn't as common. I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, so talk to me about the concept that we're talking about today with metacognition is like what led you to really embody this leadership skill?
Um, well, I've really been on a quest. I mean, you and I are both coaches, and I would hope that anyone that calls himself a coach is into helping other people change, or really transform. And so, of all the different flavors of coaching there are in the world, I think probably because of my background and some of the certifications that I hold, and really my passion for neuroscience and understanding, I and I think it's a fairly myopic thing to tell you that it's myopic because it's how I view the world. I don't believe you can help someone change how they behave until you actually help them examine how they think.
Yeah.
Now, I say that I think a lot of coaches stop at behavior modification, right? We all want to get results and we talk about actions. And unfortunately, we stop at behavior. And so for us, we don't. In fact, we don't start or stop there. We really look at mental processes and thinking. And this, in the 26 years that I've been doing this work, I would tell you that helping someone think differently than how they think is probably more fruitful to the ultimate end results that they're trying to get than just simply trying to shape behavior. So if you ask what got me into that, once you start to explore, okay, if we are going to examine how you think, we have to help you see how you think. And most people don't do that, right? They think, and they're not used to exploring their own thinking. And so, yeah, I delved into it because to me, it's the most effective, not always the easiest, but it's the most
Yeah.
effective way to go through human transformation.
How do you get them to that place of exploring how they think?
How do I get them? Interestingly, through inquiry and not certainly blunt force trauma. I like how you ask, well, because I could just go, we need to do this and do this. But, there's some really good ways that we can use positive inquiry and we can use how we ask questions and thoughtfulness. And frankly, for a lot of people, if all they're doing is behavior modification, sometimes you can just wait until that fails.
Yeah.
Because simply trying to do behavior modification over time, when we repeat that pattern over and over and over, I think it's interesting. You can be with people at a place where they're actually looking for something different. And
Hmm.
so sometimes it's a function of, there might be some suggestion there, but sometimes it's just waiting with people. And sometimes we can encounter people who have tried behavior modification and it hasn't had any sustainable effect for them.
And I know what I use as you talk about this. I use something called positive intelligence. Are you familiar with that program?
I am.
Right. And Sherzad talks about different ways of resetting your brain when you're in that place and the tools that he recommends. What tools do you recommend?
Well, I don't know if it's a tool, as much as I think it's a process. So as we think through the process, I guess it could be viewed as a tool, but when we think through the process of metacognition, maybe I could give you a tool. There is a tool, as an example, that is a tool called diffusion. But again, is it a process or a tool? You and I could debate that. But diffusion, as an example, if you have a client, or if you one of your listeners, let's say they say to themselves, man, I'm angry. Sometimes they use different vernacular, like I'm pissed off, I'm this, I'm upset. I had a client the other day say, I'm sick and tired of this. And so when we use the verb to be, right, that's the first person singular of the verb to be, and we use it with emotional stuff, it's a trigger that maybe we can awaken to the idea that I am literally saying I'm emotion. And what a lot of people don't realize is that when we use that language, we're not just expressing a language, we're expressing effectively a worldview, a paradigm. I'm this, I'm that. And so diffusion is the process of unfusing this idea of who we are from an emotion. So the tool or the process looks something like, if you can recognize that you're saying, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm anxious, whatever it might be, we can move to the second step, which is I feel anxious, I feel worried. And what's really interesting is just using that language, whether it's internal or outside, just moving from I'm to I feel, uh, it's really transformational. A lot of people don't realize it doesn't sound like much, but it's amazing. And then the third step, and we're going really quickly here for the sake of your show, but the third step would be to say, I notice that I feel. So to move from I'm anxious to I feel anxious to I notice that I feel anxious. If we can um, honor the inner noticer and really develop it, nurture it, curate it, grow in that noticer, we are effectively practicing metacognition, and that's a tool. Diffusion is one tool to practice metacognition.
That was great.
Yeah, and it's actually really, really powerful. Not easy to do in the moment, because when you are something, you can embody that so much. But the more people practice this, you can become aware of it. Wow. And I'll just tell you right now, that if people listen to this and go, that just sounds like so much, it sounds very laborious and this and that, why would I go through this? And I've recently come to the conclusion that the main reason to do it's not to be cute, clever, it's for options. You see, if you just are something, Allie, if you're just, I am this, you'll notice that the options that are available to you with regard to how you respond, how you act, how you have agency on something, it's fairly limited. But if you notice that you feel anxiety, immediately you can watch people go, well, uh, I guess I could respond like this. I could respond this way. I could respond this way. And those options with regard to how we respond are life giving, right? And usually when we're fused together with our emotion, we will just go down a road that we've always gone down. It's one road. It's a one-way street. I am this, and next thing you know, it's very limiting to our ability to take action.
So good. Yeah, I always get in my head when I ask these questions and I start thinking about them. Uh, okay, I love it.
Can I
And
can I quickly tell you an irony about getting in your own head?
oh, please.
I was teaching this class on this, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and one of our coaches, Dr. Edie Raphael, came to me, and she actually, in a very encouraging way, cautioned me about how I taught metacognition. And when I'm working with people, I'll actually use the language you just did, which is, have you ever heard someone say they're in their own head? Right? And people laugh like you do, like, right? And so I'll just ask, when you use that euphemism, I'm in my own head, right? Is that typically a positive thing or a negative thing?
I
When
always see
some
it as positive.
but when someone in the street says, "Man, I've really been in my own head. I'm in my own head." Do you hear that as positive or negative?
Oh, and I want to dissect it. Um, I think that I probably see it as negative because then are they spinning? Are they not able to get out and help themselves?
Yeah, if you got outside of what you do for a living and how you view the world, and you just asked normal human beings on the street, because you're an abnormal human, because you're a thoughtful, I'm just kidding, but you're awesome. But most people, when they say, I'm in my own head, they're not referencing something positive, right? When
Yeah.
you're in your own head, you are either spinning, but our experience with that is you're spinning on, you're either probably violently agreeing with yourself in a spin or disagreeing with yourself and having some sort of thing, but it's not positive. So when we talk about metacognition, it is a very hopeful, positive, curious, non judgmental way to be in your own head. And I have to preface that because if people walk away from here and they're going, I'm going to go practice metacognition, and all it does is cause them to spin, we didn't get what we meant by this, because it's not about spinning. It's about curiosity and
Yes.
recognition and growth and learning about yourself in a very positive way.
It's so interesting that you brought this up. I love it because when I think about it, I am just a naturally curious person, and I feel like I'm probably in states of metacognition a lot more than I'm
Mhm.
realizing as we're talking about this. And so when I say I'm in my own head, I am doing that curious part. I'm like digging in, I'm processing, I'm thinking it through. But when I think about somebody else and they say that, I think of them as spinning.
Yeah. If you really, if you want to practice metacognition, any of your listeners that, hey, I want to go practice this. Well, that's the cool part of this skill. You don't need an advanced degree. You don't need permission. You can go practice. If you really want to practice metacognition, usually for most people, just get behind the wheel of a car, because it's interesting how a lot of people, when we drive, it's just one activity that you can find yourself feeling a certain way and thinking a certain way about other people, and it's just interesting. Not everybody, but a lot of people. So as an example for you, if you got behind the wheel of the car and someone cut you off or didn't use their turn signal or drove too fast, whatever it is, and you in your own head, I'm picking on you, Allie, and maybe you don't do this,
Oh,
you
I
said to
do.
yourself, why are people like that?
Yeah.
If you could catch yourself saying, why are people like that? Then for some people, the next thing would, because of the work that you do for a living, you might say something like, oh, Allie, why do you even think those thoughts? Do you see what I'm saying? Why do you think those thoughts? And when I'm working with people, I'm like, well, be careful, because it's a great question, provided that it's asked with curiosity and not judgment. If we ask it with judgment, a lot of times I'll go, Steve, come on, man, look at what I do for a living. I've got, I've been doing this for years, and I still think, come on, why do I do that? Well, if I ask it in that tone, I tell people it might as well be, why do I do that, comma, you idiot. That's how the tone with which I'm asking, as opposed to, that's so interesting. Why do I think that? It's the same question with a different tone, because one seeks to judge and the other seeks to learn.
Yeah.
Why? I wonder why I still think that. That's so interesting. And then I can explore, as opposed to, come on, man, why do you think that?
I talk about this a lot when I am coaching on empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's
And
get
empathy
curious.
for others and empathy for ourselves, right?
Correct. Like, let's get curious about them instead of judge.
Yeah. Well, but for some people, and that's why we're here today, that's a great concept. It's not, let's just go do that. Some people, this is maybe the first time that they've heard that this skill exists, and they've been doing that since they were a little kid. And so being even patient with people that learn this process. Because, like I said, it's not complex, but it's also not easy.
All right. We went off track, which I love,
Okay,
and I think
sorry.
it's great. No, it's good. It's good. But let's circle back a little bit and just kind of share with us, what do you witness when people really struggle in this area and you are supporting them and helping guide them on this journey, but they are just really struggling to get there? What do you do?
Well, there's two questions there. What do I witness, or what do I do? What would you like?
When you witness it, what do you do?
When I witness it, what do I do? I think the first thing that I do is, I suppose, I reflect the person's thoughts as best I can back to them.
Hmm.
So rather than tell them, oh, you're doing this, we call it a concept of waitering or waitressing, right? Which is what we call it that, because if you ever go to a really fancy restaurant, and a waiter or waitress takes an order and they're not writing anything down. You're at a fancy restaurant, and then after everybody at the table orders, they repeat back the order. And it's pretty amazing how often they get it right. From time to time, they don't get it right, and you get to kind of go, oh no. And so sometimes when you waiter or waitress with somebody, you're offering their words back to them. So let me make sure I understood. You asked when you were walking around the world this question, and it created this in you. Do I have that right? And so that's just, I'm not trying to judge, I'm just offering their words back to them. Very often when someone hears their words back to them, it can be kind of something that helps them see how they were thinking.
Yes. Fabulous. Okay. Who is someone significant in your life that maybe brought this idea to you, or do you feel really embodies the skill of metacognition?
Again, those are two people. The first would be Lyndon Crow. Lyndon, he's by now retired, but his son still carries on the company. He has a company in Southern California called Productive Learning. And I think Lyndon Crow has forgotten more about emotional intelligence and metacognition than I'll ever learn. And he has been a mentor to me for years and years and years. I've also been mentored by Dr. Daniel Siegel at
Mm.
UCLA, which is where I have that certification in interpersonal neurobiology. His book, Mindsight, in a general way, really does. I don't even know if he uses the word metacognition, but it teaches metacognition. And so Dr. Siegel has done a lot to mentor me. Um, and then another mentor to me who I think practices it better than almost anybody I've known is a man, Jack, my friend Jack. There, he's got no degrees and no whatever. He's just the greatest practitioner of this work of anyone I've ever seen.
So good. I really like Dan Siegel. He is one of my favorites.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I was introduced to his work through one of his books on raising toddlers
yeah.
by chance. And I ended up bringing that into the work that I do, and it really actually translates very well.
Well, he's a super interesting guy because he's got both an MD and a PhD. And so he comes at it both from an art and a science. And his MD is in child psychiatry. And so most of the work that he's bringing to us through Mindsight or Aware or mindfulness or whatever he's doing, it will always have some element of child stuff in it because that's his background, which is brilliant.
Yeah, such a good guy. And just so smart. So smart.
Yeah. And very humble. If you ever get to meet him and know him, he's just a kind person.
Oh, I love that. So, what about a quote that you feel embodies the concept of metacognition? It can be yours, it can be somebody else's, you choose.
Yeah, well, I'll give you. You asked for one. I'll give you two. How's that? Because they're cousins. They go together for me. One, if you can name it, you can tame it. Okay. So oftentimes when we feel a certain thing and we're practicing this skill of metacognition, feelings become involved because it's not just thinking about how you think, it might be thinking about how you feel. That could be as equally as powerful usage of metacognition. It's not using your prefrontal cortex to use logic on logic. Sometimes it's, whoa, I noticed that I feel worried or whatever. So you're using your prefrontal cortex to engage the limbic system, right? I notice that requires cognition, but it might be applied to that. So if we feel something that we don't deem as something that we like, or I don't believe there's such thing as good or bad emotions. I think they're all there to teach us, right? And you would certainly agree with that. But certainly, if we feel anxious, we'd like to move through that. But a lot of times when people feel bad stuff, they just stiff arm it. Don't feel that, don't feel that, don't feel that. And in that attempt to stiff arm it, they don't name it. And so metacognition isn't about not trying to feel a thing, it's about actually recognizing it, naming it, because if you can name it, you can tame it. That's the saying. And the second saying is really by Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist. Carl Jung said, "What we resist persists."
Yes.
So if you say that's it, don't feel anxious, that thought is going to have anxiety probably cling to you. It's not about not feeling worried or angry. It's about understanding it at a very, very deep level. And so if we stiff arm it and we don't name it and we ultimately try to move away from it or eradicate it somehow in our life, stress it's so common these days in our culture. And so people like stress management. I think you and I talked a little bit about the word management. Like, I don't think it's about managing as much as it is understanding it. And so if we can understand it, if we can name it, we can tame it. And if what we resist persists, so we don't resist it. We actually, the pros at this alley, invite it so that they go, oh, that's what that is. And then they practice metacognition. And then these things don't have the stranglehold on us often that they otherwise would have, especially if we're trying to resist them.
Okay. Great conversation. I love all of it. What's your favorite snack?
What's what's funny is I'm not, and I've been like this a lot of my life. I'm not a sweet person. I know this drives people crazy. I could take or leave ice cream, and it doesn't mean I don't like sweets from time to time. I'm a salt person. And so, in fact, I really have to pay close attention to that. If I were left to my own devices, when they created salt and vinegar or anything, this was manna from heaven for me. But I think you have to be careful with that. But if I'm
Yes.
being honest, it's probably salt and vinegar chips or something like that.
Awesome.
What's
Steve,
your
thank
favorite
you.
snack?
What's my favorite snack? Ooh, right now it's apples and almond butter.
See, all healthy and stuff. You made me say salt and vinegar chips, and here you are eating all healthy and stuff.
You know, I am so appreciative of you. I really, really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in to Snack Leadership. I hope you felt inspiration, motivation, and felt your mindset spark. Snack Leadership is recorded and produced by myself, Ali Camilletti, and music by Shireen Amini.